Welcome. Before we begin, slow down for a moment. This is not a video you need to rush through. It is a space to think, quietly, honestly. Almost everyone reaches a point in life where they ask the same question. Why does time feel so much faster now? Days disappear. Weeks pass unnoticed. Years feel shorter than they ever did before. And you start wondering, is time accelerating or is something inside us changing? Science has an answer. Psychology has an answer. But so does lived experience. As children, we felt time stretch endlessly. As adults, we feel it slipping through our fingers. This is not imagination. This is not weakness. This is how the human mind works. In this story, we will explore why. We will look at how memory shapes our sense of time, how routine compresses years into moments, how attention, emotion, and awareness expand or shrink life, and how science explains what our hearts already feel. But this is not a lecture, and this is not just theory. This is a reflection on your own life, your days, your habits, your moments you barely noticed. Because the truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Time does not speed up. We stop paying attention. And when attention fades, life feels shorter. This story will not give you more time, but it may help you experience time differently. Listen slowly. Let the ideas settle. Because sometimes, the most powerful change does not come from moving faster, but from finally slowing down. Chapter 1. Time is not moving, you are. There is a quiet misunderstanding that almost everyone carries without realizing it. We believe that time is something outside of us, something that moves, accelerates, escapes. We say things like, "Time is flying. This year went too fast." I don't know where the time went, but science tells us something very different. Time itself does not speed up. The seconds pass today exactly as they did when you were a child. The clock has not changed its rhythm. What has changed is you. More precisely, the way your brain processes experience. Psychologists have known this for a long time. Our perception of time is not controlled by clocks, but by attention and novelty. When something is new, the brain works harder. Neurons fire more intensely. Details are recorded more deeply. And when the brain works harder, time feels longer. This is why childhood feels endless. As a child, almost everything was new. New places, new rules, new emotions. Even fear had a different texture. Your brain was constantly learning, constantly adapting. It had no shortcuts. And because of that, your memories became dense, rich, and detailed. Now compare that to adulthood. You wake up, often without thinking. You follow familiar routes. You repeat familiar conversations. Your brain recognizes patterns and saves energy. This is efficient, but it comes at a cost. When the brain stops paying attention, it stops recording. And when memory is thin, time collapses. This is one of the most important scientific insights about time perception. We do not feel time as it passes. We feel time when we remember it. If you cannot remember much from a period of your life, that period feels short, even if it lasted years. This is why a single emotional day can feel longer than an entire routine month. The brain prioritizes meaning, not duration. Neuroscientists explain this through how memory encoding works. Events that involve emotion, surprise, or deep focus activate areas of the brain linked to long-term memory. Routine does not. This means something uncomfortable but true. A life full of routine feels shorter, even if it is busy. Busyness is often mistaken for richness. But the brain does not care how busy you were. It cares how aware you were. You can fill every hour of your day and still feel like time disappeared. Because awareness is the currency of time. There is another reason time begins to feel faster as we grow older. Proportion. When you are 5 years old, 1 year is 20% of your entire life. When you are 50, 1 year is only 2%. The brain compares new time to lived time. And as the total grows larger, each new year feels smaller in comparison. This is not poetic. It is mathematical. But math alone does not explain the emotional weight of it. The deeper reason is this. As adults, we stop living in moments and start living in outcomes. We think about what's next, what needs to be done, what comes after this. The present becomes a bridge, not a place, and bridges are crossed quickly. Children live inside moments. Adults pass through them. This shift is subtle. It happens slowly, and most people never notice when it begins, until one day they look back and feel something like loss, without knowing exactly what was lost. It wasn't time. It was presence. And this is the core truth of this chapter. Time does not speed up because life becomes shorter. It speeds up because attention becomes scarce. When attention returns, time expands again. Not on the clock, but in experience. And that is where this journey begins. Chapter 2. Memory, Novelty, and the Illusion of Speed. If time feels fast, it is rarely because life is empty. More often, it is because life is unrecorded. The human brain does not store time the way a calendar does. It stores events, changes, and emotional shifts. This is a critical distinction. You do not remember hours. You remember moments. And when moments disappear, entire weeks can vanish with them. Neuroscience explains this through a process called memory encoding. When the brain encounters something new, unexpected, or emotionally charged, it activates deeper neural pathways. The hippocampus, the brain's memory center, becomes more active. More detail is stored. More connections are formed. This creates thick memory. But when life becomes repetitive, the brain switches to autopilot. Autopilot is efficient. It saves energy. It allows you to function without constant effort. But it also tells the brain something dangerous. This is not important. We've seen this before. And when something is not important, it is barely remembered. This is why routine-heavy periods feel short after they pass, even if they felt long while you were living them. Think about a typical week. How many moments can you clearly recall? Not what you did, but what you felt. Most people struggle with this question because their days were filled, but not marked. Psychologists call this the density of memory effect. A time period filled with novel experiences feels long in hindsight. A time period filled with repetition collapses into a blur. This is why vacations feel longer than work months. This is why childhood summers felt endless. This is why the first time you experience something seems to stretch time itself. Novelty slows time, not physically, but psychologically. And here is the uncomfortable truth. As we grow older, we actively reduce novelty. Not because we want to, but because familiarity feels safe. We build routines. We stick to what works. We avoid uncertainty. But the brain pays a price for safety. It stops writing detailed stories. Instead, it writes summaries. And summaries erase time. Another layer of this illusion comes from emotional flattening. When emotions are intense, time expands. Fear, love, awe, loss. These emotions sharpen attention. They force the mind into the present moment. But modern adult life often numbs emotion. Not dramatically, quietly. Endless scrolling, constant notifications, background noise. These don't overwhelm the brain. They dilute it. When attention is split, memory weakens. And when memory weakens, time accelerates. This is why a deeply focused hour can feel long while an unfocused day disappears. Focus is not just productivity. It is temporal control. There is also a biological component. As we age, dopamine activity decreases. Dopamine is not just the pleasure chemical. It is the novelty signal. Lower dopamine means fewer internal markers that say, "This matters. Pay attention." Without those markers, days blend together, and blended days feel short. This is not destiny. It is mechanism, and mechanisms can be influenced. The illusion of speeding time is not a curse of aging. It is a side effect of how we live. When life becomes predictable, the brain stops paying attention. When the brain stops paying attention, memory thins. When memory thins, time collapses. This chain reaction explains something deeply human. We don't miss the past because it was better. We miss it because we remember it more clearly. The past feels long not because it lasted longer, but because it was fully lived. And the most important realization of this chapter is this: time is not something you lose. It is something you fail to notice. In the next chapter, we will explore something even deeper: how attention, presence, and consciousness can actually expand time again. Not by changing the clock, but by changing the mind. Chapter 3. Attention. The currency of time. Time does not disappear, it is spent. And what you spend it on is not hours. It is attention. Attention is the true currency of time. Where attention goes, time expands. Where attention fragments, time collapses. This is not philosophy alone. It is neuroscience. The brain measures time based on how much information it processes. When attention is deep, information is rich. When attention is shallow, information is thin. And thin information creates short time. Think about moments of full presence. A difficult conversation. A near accident. A moment of intense focus. In those moments, seconds feel heavy. Every detail is sharp. Time seems to slow down. This is because attention compresses distractions and amplifies perception. When the brain focuses, the prefrontal cortex increases control, sensory input becomes more vivid, and memory encoding strengthens. More data enters consciousness, and more data makes time feel longer. Now compare this to modern daily life. Multitasking, scrolling while eating, listening without hearing, watching without seeing. Attention today is constantly divided. But divided attention does not create double experience. It creates half experience. And half experiences barely exist in memory. This is why entire days vanish. You were busy, but you were not present. Psychologists call this attentional diffusion. When attention jumps rapidly between stimuli, the brain cannot lock onto any single moment long enough to encode it deeply. The result? A life that feels fast. Not because it is short, but because it is under-processed. There is a powerful illusion here. People often believe that doing more will make life feel fuller, but the opposite is true. Doing more often makes life feel faster. Doing less, more deeply, makes life feel longer. This is why artists lose track of time while creating. This is why athletes enter the zone. This is why children seem absorbed in play. In those states, attention is unified. There is no mental noise, no internal commentary, just direct experience. Neuroscience calls this flow. Flow is not mystical. It is a state of optimized attention. During flow, the brain reduces activity in regions responsible for self-monitoring and increases sensory processing. This makes time stretch. But modern habits destroy flow. Constant notifications teach the brain one thing: do not stay here. Every vibration, every sound, every red dot trains the mind to abandon the present moment. And a mind that cannot stay, cannot remember. This leads to an uncomfortable insight. We are not losing time. We are training ourselves to ignore it. Attention also shapes emotional intensity. When attention is shallow, emotions flatten. Food tastes weaker. Music feels quieter. Conversations feel forgettable. But when attention is deep, even ordinary moments gain weight. A walk becomes vivid. A thought becomes meaningful. A minute becomes full. This is why mindfulness works. Not because it relaxes you, but because it restores attention to the present. Mindfulness is not about calm. It is about contact. Contact with what is happening now, and contact slows time. Another critical aspect of attention is choice. You do not control how many hours you have, but you do control what receives your attention. And whatever receives your attention receives your life. This is why people feel older, not because years passed, but because they stopped choosing where to look. They surrendered attention to habit. And habit is the fastest way to erase time. But attention can be retrained. The brain remains plastic, even in adulthood. Every time you focus fully, you teach the brain. This moment matters. And the brain responds by writing it down. The illusion of time speeding up is not permanent. It is reversible. Not by escaping life, but by entering it more fully. In the next chapter, we will explore how technology, speed, and constant stimulation reshape our perception of time, and why modern life feels faster than any generation before. Chapter 4. Technology and the Acceleration of Life. Every generation believes life is faster than before. But this time, something is truly different. Speed is no longer only around us. It is inside us. Technology has not just changed how we live. It has changed how our brains expect time to move. The human brain evolved in a slow world. Information arrived gradually. Messages took time. Silence was normal. Today, silence feels uncomfortable. Notifications arrive instantly. Answers are immediate. Entertainment is endless, and the brain adapts. Neuroscience shows that repeated exposure to fast, high-stimulus content rewires attention systems. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to motivation and novelty, is released in quick, frequent bursts. At first, this feels exciting, but over time, the brain develops tolerance. What once felt stimulating becomes normal. What once felt normal becomes boring. And boredom does something important to time perception. When stimulation is low, the brain disengages. Disengagement shortens memory, and shortened memory collapses time. This is why hours of scrolling feel like minutes, yet leave almost no memory behind. Your brain was active, but not attentive. There is another subtle effect. Technology fragments time into pieces. Short videos, short messages, short thoughts. The brain begins to expect experience in fragments. Long conversations feel heavy. Deep focus feels uncomfortable. Silence feels empty. This is not a personal failure. It is conditioning. The brain learns from repetition. When most experiences are brief, the brain stops preparing for depth. And depth is where time lives. Psychologists refer to this as temporal compression. When experiences are chopped into small units, the brain struggles to create continuous narratives. And without narrative, time loses shape. Days blur, weeks vanish, months feel identical. This is why people often say, "I've been so busy, but I don't remember anything." Busyness without narrative is temporal erasure. Technology also accelerates life by removing waiting. Waiting used to be a major part of human existence. Waiting created reflection. Reflection created memory. Now waiting is eliminated. But so is reflection. When every pause is filled, the mind never settles. And a restless mind cannot experience time deeply. There is also the illusion of productivity. Technology allows us to do more. But doing more is not the same as experiencing more. In fact, the faster tasks are completed, the less meaning they carry. Meaning requires friction, effort, delay, engagement. Without friction, life slides. Another important factor is comparison. Technology exposes us to countless other lives. Success, travel, milestones. This creates a distorted sense of pace. People feel behind, not because time is short, but because expectations are unrealistic. This pressure compresses the present. When the mind is always measuring, it cannot rest in now. And rest is essential for time expansion. Here is the paradox. Technology saves time, but steals time felt. It increases efficiency, but reduces depth. It makes life faster, but thinner. This does not mean technology is evil. It means it must be used consciously. When technology controls attention, time shrinks. When attention controls technology, time opens. This chapter is not about rejection. It is about awareness. Because speed without awareness is the fastest path to life passing unnoticed. In the next chapter, we will explore how routine, habits, and repetition shape time, and why sameness is one of the greatest accelerators of life. Chapter 5. Routine, Repetition, and the Vanishing Years. Nothing makes time disappear faster than repetition. Not tragedy, not loss, not even speed. Routine is quieter than all of them, and far more effective. The human brain is a prediction machine. Its primary goal is not happiness, but efficiency. When a behavior repeats, the brain automates it. Neural pathways strengthen, attention decreases, conscious awareness fades. This is useful for survival. But it has an unintended consequence. Automated life is poorly remembered. When the brain predicts what comes next, it stops recording details. And what is not recorded does not exist in memory. This is why routine weeks vanish while unfamiliar days feel long. Think about your daily life. How many mornings can you clearly remember? How many commutes? How many ordinary meals? They happened, but they left no trace, because the brain decided they were unnecessary to remember. This leads to one of the most unsettling truths about time. Time does not disappear when nothing happens. It disappears when everything is the same. Sameness numbs attention. Repetition dulls curiosity, and curiosity is what stretches time. Psychologists describe this as habituation. When a stimulus repeats, the brain responds less each time. Eventually, it almost stops responding at all. This is why even good things lose intensity. A new job becomes routine. A new place becomes ordinary. A new relationship becomes familiar. Familiarity brings comfort, but it also brings speed. The brain stops asking questions. And when questions stop, awareness collapses. There is another dimension to routine: identity. When life becomes predictable, the brain creates shortcuts not just for actions, but for the self. You stop asking, "What am I becoming?" You start asking, "What do I need to get through today?" This shift is subtle, but dangerous, because a life focused only on getting through is a life that passes quickly. Routine also affects emotional memory. Strong emotions mark time, but routine flattens emotion. Days feel neutral, weeks feel empty, months feel invisible. This does not mean routine is bad. It means routine without interruption erases life. The key is variation within structure. The brain needs stability, but it also needs surprise. Even small changes matter. A different route, a new question, a moment of reflection. Novelty does not require chaos. It requires intention. Another important insight: you do not need dramatic events to slow time. You need meaningful deviation. The brain responds to contrast. When today is slightly different from yesterday, memory thickens, time stretches. This is why travel feels long in memory, even if it was short in reality. Not because of distance, but because of difference. As people age, routines increase. Responsibilities grow. Risk decreases. Exploration shrinks. This creates the illusion that time accelerates with age. In truth, sameness increases, and sameness erases landmarks in memory. Without landmarks, time becomes a blur, but routine is not destiny. The brain remains flexible. Every time you break a pattern consciously, you tell the brain, pay attention, and the brain listens. This chapter leads to an essential realization. A meaningful life is not a busy life. It is a varied one. In the next chapter, we will explore how emotion, loss, and intensity shape time, and why painful moments often feel longer but richer in memory. Chapter 6. Emotion, pain, and the weight of moments. Some moments feel heavy, not because they last long, but because they change something inside us. Emotion gives time weight. Without emotion, time slides. With emotion, time settles. Neuroscience shows that strong emotions, especially fear, love, loss, and hope, activate the amygdala, a region deeply connected to memory formation. When the amygdala is active, the brain marks the moment as important. It says, remember this. This is why emotional memories feel sharp, even years later. A single painful moment can feel longer than months of routine, not because more time passed, but because more meaning was encoded. Pain is especially powerful. Pain slows time in the moment, but expands it in memory. During intense stress or danger, the brain releases adrenaline. Perception sharpens. Thoughts slow. Details become vivid. This creates the sensation that time is stretching. But later, when you look back, that same moment occupies a large space in your life story. It becomes a landmark. This is why people often remember tragedies more clearly than years of calm. Calm passes quietly. Pain announces itself. But emotion is not only about suffering. Joy can slow time too, when it is fully felt. The problem is not that joy is weak. The problem is that joy is often distracted. People experience happiness while thinking about something else. And what is divided is not remembered. Emotion requires presence. Grief forces presence. Fear demands presence. Joy, however, asks gently, and we often ignore it. Another important truth: emotional suppression accelerates time. When people avoid feeling, when they numb pain, distract from discomfort, or escape emotion, they also escape memory. Numbness creates empty time. This is why years of emotional avoidance can disappear almost entirely from memory. Time was lived, but not felt. There is a cost to avoiding pain. Pain, as uncomfortable as it is, anchors time. It gives life texture. This does not mean seeking suffering. It means allowing feeling. Emotional honesty slows time. Another phenomenon is anticipation. Waiting for something meaningful can stretch time dramatically. A letter, a result, a reunion. Anticipation heightens awareness. The brain scans the environment constantly. Time elongates. This is why modern instant gratification reduces time richness. When waiting disappears, so does anticipation. And without anticipation, the future loses depth. There is also the role of reflection. Emotion becomes memory when it is reflected upon. People who pause to process experiences remember more, and remembering more makes life feel longer. Reflection is emotional digestion. Without it, moments pass undigested. They nourish nothing. This chapter reveals a difficult but essential truth. A life without emotional depth may feel easier, but it will feel shorter. Intensity is not about drama. It is about honesty. Honesty with pain. Honesty with joy. Honesty with loss. When life is fully felt, time expands. Not forward, but backward. In memory. In meaning. In the story you carry. In the next chapter, we will explore how aging, memory, and identity interact, and why time seems to accelerate as we grow older, even when life becomes quieter. Chapter 7. Aging, Identity, and the Shrinking Present. As we grow older, something subtle begins to happen. Time, which once seemed endless, begins to slip faster through our fingers. This is not an illusion alone. It is a combination of biology, psychology, and life itself. First, consider proportionality. When you are 5 years old, 1 year is 20% of your life. A single summer feels like an eternity. When you are 50, 1 year is only 2%. The same duration feels tiny, almost invisible. Mathematics alone does not explain the emotional impact. Our brains compare the new with the total lived experience. As the total grows, each new segment shrinks in perceived length. Next, consider identity and routine. Childhood is a period of constant self-discovery. Every choice, every action, every mistake reshapes who we are. Adulthood often requires stability, jobs, responsibilities, bills, repetition. This predictability reduces identity growth, and when identity growth slows, time feels compressed. Life becomes a series of mechanical routines rather than lived experiences. Neuroscientists call this temporal compression due to habituation. The brain stops recording repeated experiences in detail. Weeks, months, even years collapse into blurred memory. Another factor is reflection and narrative. Children naturally reflect on their actions, their world, and their feelings. Adults, overwhelmed by obligations, often postpone reflection. When reflection fades, so does memory. And when memory thins, so does perceived time. Biology also plays a role. With age, dopamine levels slowly decline. Dopamine is not just pleasure, it is the novelty signal. Lower dopamine means fewer internal markers for "this is significant." This makes ordinary events feel unremarkable, and years pass unnoticed. There is also social comparison. Adults constantly measure themselves against others. Milestones, achievements, status. This continuous comparison accelerates life internally because the present is no longer enough. The mind jumps to the next expectation. The future overshadows now. The combined effect is profound. Proportion shrinks years in perception. Habituation thins memory. Lack of reflection erases experience. Dopamine decline dulls novelty. Social comparison compresses the present. Yet this is not hopeless. Aging does not have to mean losing the richness of time. The mind remains plastic. Conscious attention, new experiences, emotional engagement, all can expand the present again. Older individuals who travel, learn new skills, or challenge themselves report that life feels slower, fuller, and longer. The secret is simple but rarely practiced. Grow internally as you age. Seek novelty, reflection, and emotional depth. Reclaim your attention. Redefine your identity. By doing so, you do not stop time. You stop letting it slip unnoticed. And suddenly, life feels expansive, even at 50, 60, 70 years old. In the next chapter, we will explore practical strategies, ways to slow down time, enrich memory, and live fully without escaping life or resisting the world. Chapter 8. How to slow time and live fully. By now, we understand why time feels faster as we grow older. Routine, distraction, emotional flattening, and proportion. But there is good news. Time can be expanded from within. The key is attention, novelty, and conscious engagement. 1. Focus on presence. Presence is the anchor of time. When you are fully immersed in the moment, seconds feel heavier, minutes feel longer. This is not meditation fluff. Neuroscience confirms that deep attention strengthens memory and stretches subjective time. The practice is simple but challenging. Stop multitasking. Notice sensations, sounds, and textures. Engage fully in conversations and activities. Every fully lived moment is a time investment. 2. Embrace novelty. New experiences activate dopamine pathways, increase attention, and create dense memories. You do not need extreme adventures. Take a new route to work, learn a new skill, Explore a different hobby. Novelty teaches the brain. This moment matters. And when moments matter, time expands. 3. Reflect and record. Reflection converts experience into memory. Without reflection, moments are fleeting. Try journaling thoughts and emotions, discussing meaningful experiences with friends, pausing to ask, what did I feel? What did I learn? Reflection thickens memory. Thick memory slows time in retrospect. 4. Balance routine with variation. Routine is necessary for efficiency, but too much creates temporal erosion. Even small deviations can help. Change meal routines. Try new daily habits. Add meaningful interruptions to your schedule. Variation refreshes attention, turning ordinary days into memorable ones. 5. Engage emotion. Fully pain, joy, awe, and fear give time weight. Adults often suppress emotion to stay efficient. Instead, allow yourself to feel fully. Don't ignore subtle joys or sorrows. Emotional honesty creates temporal richness. Even small emotional moments can make life feel longer. 6. Slow the pace. Don't escape. Many try to slow life by leaving responsibilities, traveling endlessly, or seeking distractions. True time expansion comes without escape. Live in your current reality. Notice the ordinary. Transform daily life into an engaged, attentive experience. Slow down perception, not life itself. 7. Practical daily exercises. Mindful walking. Focus on every step, sound, and breath. Single tasking. Complete one task at a time fully. Novel learning. Dedicate time to a new skill weekly. Reflection rituals. Journal or talk about your day's meaningful events. Emotional check-ins. Identify feelings and name them daily. Each of these expands subjective time. Each moment you engage fully is a moment you own. The final insight, time, does not slip because it moves faster. It slips because we fail to notice it. By reclaiming attention, embracing novelty, reflecting deeply, and living emotionally, we stretch time in memory and in experience. Life becomes not shorter, but richer. Moments accumulate. Memory deepens. Years feel longer. And in this way, even an ordinary life can become extraordinary in its depth. Next, we can write the conclusion, which will tie all 8 chapters together, give the viewer a motivational final message, and include the channel subscribe call. Conclusion. Living fully and owning your time. We have explored why time feels faster as we grow older. Memory fades, attention fragments, routine dominates, emotions flatten, and life speeds up around us. But the truth is clear. Time does not fly. It is our perception, our attention, and our engagement that shape it. You have the power to slow time. You can make days feel long, rich, and meaningful. You can reclaim the moments that usually vanish unnoticed. Focus fully on the present. Embrace novelty. Reflect on your experiences. Balance routine with small variations. Engage your emotions honestly. Every conscious moment is a victory against the rushing illusion. Every fully lived day adds depth, texture, and memory to your life. Remember this: life does not need to be longer. It needs to be lived fully. Do not wait for extraordinary events to make time meaningful. Even the smallest moments, when fully embraced, can become extraordinary in memory. And the most important lesson: consistency in attention, curiosity, and emotional engagement is the key to a life that feels rich and expansive. Keep practicing. Keep noticing. Keep feeling. If you make this a habit, your life will stretch, your days will accumulate, and your years will be filled with stories worth remembering. Your journey toward owning your time begins now. If you found this story valuable, subscribe to the channel and join us for more insights, more wisdom, and more ways to live fully. Every moment counts. Make yours unforgettable.